Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We're on episode number 173. Today is July 20th. My name is Craig Perales. Joining me, as always, the tatted down man himself, Mandrew Montemayor.
Hey, we're out here and we're trying.
How you feeling today, man? I know as that side, you showed me to me earlier, but it looked like it's really painful.
Once I'm done healing, maybe I'll post a picture on Insta. But yeah, I just finally finished my right side. I have my left outside line. So I just did that, but it's like completely bruised.
What's your goal? Are you going neck to like toes kind of thing, or?
I don't know. I think eventually, if I could, I would move up. But I had like a really cool idea for like, I don't know that I would do something on my face ever, except for I do want something small right here.
Just get that teardrop. We know you're killing it.
But I would do. I was thinking the other day, what would be cool is like a dinosaur like jawbone. Like, that would be cool, and, like, the teeth, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but hide it under your beard if you have to.
But, because what was I watching? I was watching,
Was it Inked?
No, what's that one movie where, Apocalypto, or whatever, and then they wear stuff kind of like that, and it's obviously not a dinosaur bone, but I'm like, oh, man, that's cool, and what would be cooler is, like a T-Rex one, or, like, something like that.
I'd be interested to see that. That would hurt like a mother.
Probably, but I'd look so cool.
It would look pretty cool. So, guys, thank you for joining us on the show today. If you guys are watching the YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. If you guys are interested in following us on any of our social media, our Linktree link is in the description to take you to Facebook, Instagram, etc. And if you guys are listening to the audio-only version of this podcast, check us out on the podcast platform of your choice. So, guys, before we dive into our main topics, we like to do What Are You Up To?, where we take a second to talk about anything we've been playing, anything we've been watching, anything we got going on. So, I do want to point out... we're trying to get this episode out a little earlier because we're both going to Vegas this weekend. I know you're going to go see a concert. I've got my cousin's wedding to go to, but essentially we're both going to be in Vegas same time. I'm sure we're going to meet up and do some shenanigans.
Yeah, so if any of you guys happen to be going to Falling in Reverse, Ice 9 Kills, and see me there, feel free to say hi.
When do you come back? Are you coming back Sunday or are you coming back Saturday?
No, I'm going to come back Saturday.
Okay, I'm leaving tomorrow. I'll be back Sunday, probably mid-afternoon.
I want to come back Saturday and hopefully be home by like 2, because then I can still it feels like you have 2 days off still,
That's always good. Are you going to Johnny Maxwell before you leave?
I probably will. That's always like the move on the way out, just because like pizza just absorb all the alcohol, get out of my system, make Dante drive home.
It really takes over the hangover. So we'll both be out of town this weekend. If you guys are in Vegas, stop by, hit us up, say hi. But as far as what we've been watching and playing, Andrew, what have you been up to, my man?
So lately, I've been playing Redfall. Oh, wait, never mind. That was just another boring game I'm wasting my time with. I meant to say Hellblade because I felt like this game was really hyped up and I had kind of missed out on it. And I'm like, okay, the second one's looking cool. I'm going to go through this. I'm really like not enjoying it. I don't care for the combat. Don't really care for the puzzles. I feel like it's just...
Did you write that down?
Isn't it like Ninja Theory or something?
Yeah, I think it is.
And it's just like constant. And I enjoy talking, but like just I don't know, just what it is for this game is just not clicking for me. That I personally have like turned off the volume on it already, and I'm just watching a podcast while I'm playing through because I've already given it like 4 hours, and I'm like, okay, like I looked up
skip it, man.
I looked up how long to beat. It's like 8 hours to 10 hours. I'm like, well, I'm already halfway through. I might as well just get through it and get the achievements. Yeah. And so at this point, I'm just like hating my life on that. But as far as anything else cool, and speaking of dinosaurs, they just added $65 million to Netflix with Adam Driver, and I actually thought it was a really cool movie. I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people kind of like crapped on it and said it wasn't like too great, boring, blah blah blah, and plot this, plot that. I actually really like the twists for it. I thought it was cool. I'd give it like a 6.5 or a 7. Like if I had gone to go see it in theaters, I wouldn't be mad. I'd say that. Like, leaving the theater, I'd be like, oh, you know what? That's cool. I'd maybe watch it a few other times at home. It's no Jurassic Park, but how could anything be like that? But I think the idea for what it is actually really cool and really interesting.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that it was on there, and I've been wanting to check that out. So, because I think what made it look awesome, as far as I've seen, is that a banging trailer. And yeah. I think that's what turned a lot of people on, but yeah, I don't know where it lands. So it's on, what did you say, it's on Netflix?
On Netflix, yes.
Nice, I do got to check that out. Was that everything for you?
Yeah, what's up with you?
As far as what I've been watching, I did catch up on a lot of my shows. I finished Better Call Saul. It's
all good, man.
Yeah, I finished Suits, which was on... What was it on? It was on Amazon. And then it jumped to Netflix, but only goes to season 8. And then the last season it was on Peacock. So I had to hit a few people up and get some passwords because the one I had commercials. I'm like, I'm not watching 10 episodes, hour-longs with 5 commercials in it. So I finished Suits, and then I just finished Bear that was on Hulu, which was pretty good. But as far as I watched a movie the other day, it was on Peacock too, was the movie Renfield, which is the vampire movie with Nicolas Cage.
Vampire movie?
And Nicholas Hoult. It's decent. I mean, it's very cheesy, and it's always hard for me to wrap my head around that movies like this, like, who's making this? Like, I'm listening to some of these lines, some of this dialogue. The action's cool. It's rated R. There's a lot of cool, bloody, people get the shit beat out of them. Like, so that is cool. But as far as, like, the dialogue and you're listening to this, I'm like, this is, like, just some bad writing. I forgot that the Awkwafina is in it. I don't mind her. I like her in Shang-Chi. I don't really care for her in this movie at all. Some of the powers and spells don't really make sense. I do like Ben Schwartz. He's one of like the villains in it. It's a decent movie. I would say it's probably skippable though. So unless it was on your list or you're a big Nick Cage fan, I don't know if I check it out. I got a 58 on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.4 on IMDb. I would say it's passable. It didn't do well. The budget of this movie was $65 million, and its box office was only 26.7. So we call that a stinker. As far as what I've been playing, I was going to start Tears of the Kingdom, but since we're leaving town and we were going to record today, I didn't want to start it for like a day or two and then not play it for 3 days. So I'm going to start that on Monday. So I've still been playing Harvest Moon. That's on the Super Nintendo via the Switch, and I'm about done with it. I'm on my 3rd year. I've got 6 chickens, 5 cows, 1 baby, and I ended up marrying Eve. And I've been mainly playing it because I've been behind on a lot of like my movie podcasts and a few other gaming podcasts. So it's a perfect game that I can just like do my daily routine and then just catch up on all my stuff. So I caught up on like hours of podcasts that I was falling behind on. And then Andrew and I are both playing a game that we're going to be talking about here in just a second.
What'd you name your baby?
Zeus. Well, I was going to name it Geno, but I have a couple cows. I named one of my cows Dante, Geno, D, Hef, and then one of them is one I meant to sell, so I named it Cell, C-E-L-L. So, just in case I had to get rid of it. So, guys, that's what we've been playing. That's what we've been up to. Leave down in the comments what you've been doing and let us know if there's anything we need to check out. So, with that down and out of the way, guys, let's move into our main topic, and that is that Exoprimal is now out. It is a cross-platform game. It's also a day and date on Gamepass. It just released on July 14th, developed by Capcom, to a few mixed reviews. Now, me, Geno, and Andrew actually did coverage on this. I think it was about 4 months ago. Yeah, it was in March for the beta that came out. And when the beta launched, there was no real story to it, but you could play all the levels that it had to offer and all the exosuits. So the exosuits, if you guys weren't familiar, if you're interested in checking out, is it's got 4 assault role suits, which is kind of like a DPS role, which is the Deadeye, Zephyr, Barrage, and Vigilant. It's got 3 tank roles, which are Roadblock, Krieger, and Murasami, and then 3 support/heal roles, which is the Witch Doctor, Skywave, and Nimbus. It's got 3 main kind of maps that you play in, which is Downtown, Airport, and Ruins. And then it's got 7 mission types, which is the Dinosaur Coal, Area Control, VTOL Defense, Escort, Data Key Security, Energy Taker, and Omega Charge. Now, the full game has came out, but it is limited into what suits you can actually get. You start off with quite a few of them, and then the back 3, or the last one for each one, I believe, has to be unlocked, or you can purchase it. This one does actually have a story, because in the beta we were kind of talking about, is there going to be a campaign to this game? Some things were saying there is a story. So there is a story to it, but so far I've found it very uninteresting. But we got to preface this by saying I'm only level 13, so this thing may get better or a lot cooler.
I doubt
that. I have 1 mech at 10. I think I have 2 mechs at level 5. So I just want to put it in context that we're still in the beginning of the game. We've just been playing it, but I find this story pretty lackluster. I've pretty much been skipping it. So before we dive into the gameplay and kind of pros and cons, Andrew, I just wanted to ask, was this a game, because I kind of forgot about it, even though it was coming day and date on Game Pass. Was this a game you think anyone was anticipating? Do you think it was worth diving into? And do you think anyone was looking for this 5-player PvE online game only with a as of now, lackluster storyline. And out of all the people to make it, Capcom, was this something that kind of came out of nowhere? When we knew it was coming, but out of these guys?
I'll give them this. I mean, at least the game runs well, and it looks good. It looks good. I mean, it's not like the world's best looking game or anything like that, but it's cool, and the designs are cool, and what it does is cool. But yeah, I don't know what there was to really be hyped for, or why anyone would be hyped for this. I'm gonna continue to play it because it looks like easy achievements, and it's just one of those games. Hey, jump in with some friends and maybe like have a little bit of fun. I feel like and I remember telling you guys this the other day, and it seems like they're doing this with a few things, except for this one's like a standalone concept versus there was. I don't know why this isn't a free to play game, because this would be a perfect free to play game. Instead of, I think that it's like normally like $40. I wouldn't really say there's like $40 worth here, especially too if you have to pay extra for like the battle pass too, because it's just really repetitive. Even though it's fun gameplay if you have people to play with. I don't know if I'd sit there by myself and really do this, but I feel like they did it with this. Then there was RE-verse, which got delayed, but that originally launched with Resident Evil Village. And then what was the other one that we always forget what it's called? The asymmetric one that launched with RE3.
I always forget. Something.
Well, either way, there was the other Resident Evil one too, where it's like an asymmetric. One person plays like almost like a dungeon master, and then you're the other people kind of try to get out of there. We forget what it's called, but either way, I felt like all these games would be cool and would be a lot funner if they were free to play, because then you're really opening it up to your audience, because then you could make your money off of, like microtransactions, like maybe cool costumes or something like that. Because it seems like there is some costumes here, but I don't get why you want, okay, like give everyone by default, after unlocking them, maybe like 5 to 10. How hard would it be to design another 10 or something like that? Something like $2 a piece or something like that. I feel like that would have been the better move for this. Or like I said, with some of their other strange options with RE-verse, and I always forget the other one's name now, because we didn't really play it for that long because it was hard to find games because nobody was playing it, because it's this off-course thing that's not free.
Yeah, so it is interesting to note that this game is free on Game Pass if you have the Game Pass, and it is a game that I think I agree with you, because if you're looking at the PlayStation version, it's either $40 or $50 or something like that, and the more I'm playing it, the more I'm liking it. I was kind of off of it when we first started doing it, but the more I'm playing it, the more I'm into it. But I don't know if I would be happy if I spent $50 on this game, because like Andrew was pointing out, there is 2 different season passes. One's a free to the player pass, which will unlock kind of some of the Bitcoin, which is the currency in the game, and a couple other things as you progress, and like war chests that'll give you items. But then there's also the paid premium tier, and both of them go up to level 50. And I was looking at it today just to make sure if it gave you anything more or less than what the other players would get. And essentially it's all cosmetics. It's all decals. It's all skins. And the paid tier is only $10. So yeah, if they would have made a free-to-play version of this game across platform, because this is cross-platform and you have the option to actually turn it off, $10 wouldn't have been so bad.
No, for a battle pass,
and you're like, oh, and you actually get into it, because we have been getting it, and we'll kind of dive more into that in a minute. We have been playing it. At least every time I've played it, it's been with 2 to 4 players. So that was one thing. And the other thing they offered is I think they called it the Head Start package, which is $15, which automatically, because if you want to unlock the other suits, one's at 20, one's at 30, one's at 40. But if you pay $15, you unlock all 3 of them right away. So that is something right then and there that you could have made $25 on anybody that wanted to invest money on it, instead of asking them for 50 and then another 25 on top of that. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it would have been a smarter move if they would have made it a free-to-play game and then just add little things like that on top of it. So, Capcom is kind of hitting a thing. There's a lot of articles I was reading that saying Capcom has finally lost its winning streak after coming out hard with the Resident Evils and a few other games that it's had coming out. They're saying that this game, for a lot of people, did not quite hit the mark. So, did you want to say something first?
I was going to say, I don't know if I agree with
I don't either.
Because I don't think that this is what it was supposed to, like, this is just something they're working on and put out, while they focus on their big projects. I don't think they've ever hyped this up as anything more than, hey, we've made this and we think it's cool, get out there.
Well, and the other thing, there's nothing else like it. So they didn't copy anything. You know what I mean? Out of all the world we live in where everything's a clone of something, or wants to be Call of Duty or be the next this or that, the next Fortnite, there's nothing like this. So they made something that stands on its own 2 feet, whether or not you like the model. We do. I don't say I love it, but I like it. they made something completely different. Now, I'm not saying there's not PC games out there that mimic this, but as far as console goes, I can't compare it to anything.
Yeah, I would have said it's more of a miss with the other, like, I keep forgetting what the other one's called, and I want to look it up, but I don't have my phone. And then with, like, RE-verse, because RE-verse was actually supposed to launch with Village, and then that didn't come out until, like, almost a year later, because it kept getting delayed. I have it downloaded on my Xbox, and I still haven't even, like, tried it. I knew it started with an E.
It's always re something. I always want to see
Resident Evil Resistance or Resident Evil Verse, which those games now, I mean, we would probably end up still playing those if there was like a bigger group to play them with, but again, no, you would have to either buy Resident Evil 3 or Resident Evil Village to play either of those.
Yeah, so this comes to us from the Gamer.com, and they kind of point out the trappings this game had. It says, every day you are forced to kill dinosaurs and complete objectives on the same selection of maps with the same arduous task in service of gathering combat data for Leviathan, as your team on the outside does everything they can to thwart its systems and pilfer information we can use to figure out exactly what brought us to this island of ruin. The narrative is pieced together after each match in the form of unlockable audio logs and cutscenes within a literal web of lore. You're expected to sit through reams of exposition instead of watching the story unfold naturally in the midst of matches. Thanks to the occasional set piece and some excellent character moments, this does happen from time to time, but there's literally no way of knowing if and when these instances will take place, turning Exoprimal into a mundane waiting game. So I do, and there's more to the article. If you guys want to read it, you can check it out. I do see where they're coming from, because one of the biggest issues that I have with the game is that it's a bit repetitive. There's a lot of the same thing constantly going on. So even jumping into a match sometimes, I don't know how long you've had to wait, but I've sat there for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 minutes waiting for a match to get going, and I get what he's saying. I think what could have saved this, like, and I think I was talking about when we talked about the beta, is don't make it like Titanfall 1. Put a campaign in here that we could play, because imagine if you were playing with these exosuits and there was a narrative thing and you're actually going through a map in a single or a 2-player game doing something like that, where, yeah, the storyline when you're watching this thing unfold, it's literally this weird web that you gotta go to, and it's kind of, I don't want to say hard to navigate, but it's like, okay, which one did I click? Which one do I have to listen to again? So for me, I think they kind of dropped the ball that way. Do you agree with what he's saying, though, in terms of like it being slow and mundane and kind of repetitive?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, at least, again, like what I was saying, the gameplay is good and like fun. Yeah. Like it runs really well, so I mean, that's not really the issue. It's just, again, especially too, if you're going to ask for people to pay for this, there's only 3 maps. I don't understand why there wasn't at least like 6, 7, 8 to 10 or something like that. But I don't even think it's so much that's even the problem for me. It's a lot of the dialogue. So every time you're loading, like Leviathan, the machine AI dude, has to talk to you, and he says like the same thing over and over, and so you're sitting there at that, essentially what is a loading screen, talking to the guy, and it's like, oh, you're now going into whatever. It's like, bro, you're saying the same thing over and over. Like,
you're saying like, the same thing he said.
Like, you're expecting me to play this game however many times, but each time I'm loading in or I jacking into the fucking game, it's the same dialogue every single time. Like, that was the more annoying part, especially to like, I'm already annoyed now because I haven't even won a single game because somehow my team just ends up losing like each time. We'll be like at 90, the other team's at 70, and somehow they'll catch up and win. So not only am I watching my guy get torn apart after all my hard work, but then I got to listen to this guy tell me again.
Yeah, there's one of the things I was kind of looking up is that there is more to the game that's going to unlock. So the more games you play, which essentially is how you progress the story, is the more games you play, it'll start unlocking new modes, new maps, and new dinosaurs. So when I started looking at that, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So, I mean, it requires you to progress, because I was looking up some other cutscenes and battles. There's like poisonous dinosaurs that start coming out, electrical dinosaurs
that start
coming out. Yeah, so you do have to progress. It's just that beginning is kind of a slow burn, because I'm already on like, 10, 15 plus games, and it's not there yet. So I'm curious of when it takes to get there. And this other thing I was looking up is on, I believe it's July 28th, they're introducing what's called the Stronghold Gauntlet, which is now going to be a harder run for people that want to get in there. Let's say you're already a higher level, because I've seen people that are already like level 90s and stuff like that.
Oh, dude, that's the worst, is there is no like skill-based matchmaking. So when we were first getting started, we're seeing people that have like full setups with full equipment and full this and full that, so they just smash us in like one hit. You don't even stand a chance.
So so once they do that on July 20th with the Stronghold one, which is going to be a stronger run of the games, it's also going to introduce worldwide leaderboards and stuff like that. So it does seem like they are putting some stock in this game, that they do think it will be around for a while. But I would definitely recommend anybody who's interested in checking this game out, watch a 12 tips and tricks or something along those lines of how to get this game going, because it doesn't do a great job of explaining, like if you want to switch between all these classes, which you can do in the middle of a battlefield. If you want to switch to a tank role from a healing role, you can. If you want to switch to a healing to a DPS, you can. But it doesn't really say what all their moves are. Now, you can go to the training ground and practice with them, but I didn't realize that there's a button, and I haven't tried it on the controller because when I was watching it was on PC. If you do like F12, it'll show you like what each button does. So that was kind of annoying. So I would recommend watch something, learn a bit how the maps work, learn a bit the weak spots of the dinosaurs, understand that your modules are going to play a big part of this game. Because once I started, me and Geno watched like 1 or 2 the other day, and then I was kind of telling Daniel about it. Once we started getting the hang of it and going, oh, this is what you should be looking for, dude. Then we started winning, and I went 4 games in a row winning. So my losing streak is officially over. And once that started happening, dude, because when we were gonna do this episode, I was completely gonna bash this thing because again, I didn't see any improvement from the beta. But once I started getting the hang of it and going, oh, it's these little things that are gonna make all the world of a difference. I'm looking forward to, like, when we're done with this, I'm looking forward to playing a couple more games with you or Daniel. I want to jump in. And the other thing I gotta say is, try to play with a friend. I mean, we actually had a 5-person group. You don't see that too often in games like this, but it was me, Geno, Daniel, Mandrew, and his brother, and it's just so different playing with a full-fledged squad. And you can say that about Halo or Call of Duty, but in a game that's 5v5 and there's multiple suits of different roles, it's a lot of fun, and that's why I think this game shines. That's the fun, is the experimentation and leveling up each guy and unlocking new stuff. So there is something to this game. I just think it didn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that is the most important thing going into this game, is if you're like a solo player or something like that, this isn't gonna be for you. This is for sure a team-based game, like whether it be with friends or whatever it is you want to do. You cannot just get through and like solo it by yourself and carry your team to victory.
Yeah, because there's definitely times where in the beginning when you can see the lobby and you go, okay, I'm playing the tank, nobody's becoming the healer. But if you got your own team, you can be like, hey guys, you play the Witch Doctor, I'll play Krieger, you do Deadeye. You know what I mean? You can kind of do that where, and the other one, if someone's not going to change, then they're not going to change, and then you get kind of bamboozled.
Hey, I'm on top of the accolades board every game.
Yeah, so I got to say, I think this game is good. It's definitely fun, and I like it, but does that mean this game was necessary? I don't think so, and my biggest problem is seeing the user base fall off, because this game strictly requires now 10 people online consistently running it, and I don't know if there's enough meat on these bones to keep it going. I hope I'm wrong, because I think it is fun. I just don't know if it's going to go. I don't know if this game's going to be here in 5 years.
I think if you were charging if you had to charge something for this game, I think like the $15 or the $20 mark would have been a lot better than $40.
Yeah, because I mean, it does have cool looking cosmetics. Some of the stuff we got from the war chest, right when Andrew and I popped it, got cool outfits,
legendaries,
cool guns.
Yeah.
So it is kind of cool to customize. It is kind of cool to play around. Be familiar with all 3 of the spots. I think you will have fun with this. If you're not on Game Pass, I don't know if I'd pay $50 for this thing. But if you do have Game Pass, jump on, give it a try, watch a few tips and tricks, and I think this game will be a lot more fun than it was in the beginning when we were just getting smashed left and right.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, yeah, I wouldn't pay for it. I mean, before we move on, do you have a favorite guy you like to play so far?
Yeah, the suit I've been doing is Tank Roll, Krieger, which is the so there's Roadblock, Krieger, and I forget the third one, but I've been doing him.
That's the one you had the Jack outfit for?
Yeah, I got the King Spade.
Or the King,
the King Spade outfit. And once I started learning how to do all the moves right, you know, I'm hitting the leaderboards more often than not now. I've been winning games. So yeah, Krieger, Tank Roll has been my favorite. I've messed around with Deadeye because that's the one you kind of default start with. I haven't yet dabbled into support healing, which is that still your favorite?
Yeah, honestly, that's what I've been so far because no one else kind of is. So I've been actually playing the Witch Doctor the most, but I like to get like very aggressive with it. So I'm watching the health and I'm dropping the health for everyone, but I'm up there like usually on the front lines because if you're using the Witch Doctor, he has this like cane that he uses, and it shocks the enemies. It doesn't really do that much damage, but it makes them immobile. So I'm running up in there, shocking everything, so that way these guys are blasting everything. The dinosaurs aren't scattering or getting away, or especially what it really helps with is like all the flying like pterodons. I shock them out of the air, and then you can just hit them when they're on the ground, versus trying to hit them with your cannon, and then you miss, and now they're just flying around everywhere. So I've been a pretty aggressive healer.
Yeah, and I've actually changed. Again, experiment with your rig, because the more you play, the more stuff you'll unlock, like shields and blades. But I've switched my laser cannon to the aid cannon, and I've been finding that just playing minor support heal with playing a tank is, because you can throw up the dome, and then I can throw a little healing spot if there is no big healer, and I've been finding that that works really well for me. So again, there is, and I think that's my biggest point that I like most about this game. There is customizability. There is tons to do. You can switch your guy constantly throughout the whole game multiple times. There's even an achievement for doing it 5 times and winning, I think. So the game's fun.
Oh, I want to try and do that.
Yeah, but we gotta win, I think. But I don't know. I think that's about as much as I want to say on Exoprimal. Best of luck to them. I think Capcom did something different. I think they dropped the ball on not having a campaign. But I mean, hopefully more stuff comes out in this game, picks up, but I don't know how you would change the repetitiveness of it.
Yeah, hopefully we're wrong and it does well. I mean, honestly, like I said, if this thing was off of Game Pass next week, I wouldn't pay for it to continue playing to keep trying to get achievements. I'm like, oh well, that was fun.
Yeah, so that is then we have for Exoprimal, guys. Let us know if you've been playing it. Let us know if you've been checking it out. Let us know your favorite character, your favorite build, and all that good stuff. So with that down and out of the way, guys, let's move into our second main story, which involves the Xbox Activision deal as it gets closer to being complete. Now, I don't want to dive too far into this because there's a lot to unpack. And if we want to try to backdate this thing and all the nonsense that's kind of been going on with the FTC and the CMA and all this stuff. But
plus, it's not even done yet.
Yeah, and it's not done. But I do kind of want to discuss some of the highlights that maybe some of you are unaware of what's been going on in the court lately. So I'm going to hit you with some of the highlights of what's recently been going on. And Andrew, if you want to jump on and add anything to that, you definitely can. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the FTC filed a preliminary injunction. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with what that is, a preliminary injunction is a temporary relief that preserves the status quo until the court decides on the merits of the case. The relief sought often involves asking a court to prevent an opposing party from taking specific action or continuing a current course of action. In this case, Microsoft moving forward with buying Activision, right? So they did the preliminary injunction, and that was denied. And one of the main factors is that what they were able to fail at was explain on how the deal would be, how it would affect the industry, and what they instead did was they focused on how it affected Sony, and that kind of did two things. When they were mentioning Activision and Call of Duty and all this stuff, and what Sony wanted to be a part of this, and how they thought they were going to lose something, they didn't mention any of the other games. Activision has a huge catalog of games, and what they were failing to mention is that it's not that they're losing Activision in its games and everything that it offers. They focused on just one particular game. I did think they mentioned Diablo here and there, but the main focus was on Call of Duty. The other thing they didn't do was they didn't show that the consumer was the one suffering from this. They didn't show that if Call of Duty were to go off of Sony, that the consumer would be suffering. What they constantly reported to was they said Sony was going to be infected by that, and that didn't help their cause. I believe the number, how many times they mentioned Sony was going to be affected was 72 times, 72, 74. And how many times they mentioned anything about the consumer being affected by this was less than 4 times. So by doing that, Xbox was able to, and Microsoft was able to show this chart. And essentially what it showed was Call of Duty before the acquisition and Call of Duty after the acquisition. And before that, it showed Sony, Xbox, and PC were the primary players, or the only players running with Call of Duty. And after, what they showed the acquisition would do is it showed PlayStation was still going to have it, even if it may be for a time. Xbox was going to have it, PC was going to have it, Nintendo was going to have it, Nvidia was going to have it, etc. So what Xbox showed was that not only is this going to be on more platforms than ever, they showed that they are affecting the consumer positively, and even if Sony may be affected a little bit. So they were able to kind of flip it on its head, where they were trying to protect Sony. Microsoft showed that this is going to help the consumer. Now, Sony made a bunch of arguments saying that it's going to be unfair to make Activision and a lot of its games exclusive. I know there was still a 10-year deal that is in order. I think you might want to touch on that. But Xbox essentially said that that's economically wrong. There is no main plan to lock Call of Duty behind the green wall is what they call it, the Xbox wall, because the difference that they showed out is that Bethesda is a thing. When you look at Doom and Elder Scrolls and even Starfield, that's a company they bought for $7.5 billion, right? in enough time, you make that money back in a decent amount of time. Activision is a $69 billion acquisition that it's not cost feasible to buy something that makes a lot of money cross-platform and then gate it behind just being on Xbox when the traffic shows it makes the least amount of money. They did the same argument by showing Minecraft. Minecraft is now first party. It is owned by Xbox, but they didn't gate it. And the record shows that it makes more money on other platforms than Xbox. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot. They're like, well, there's no reason. Like, what you're saying is something we can't do if we want to make sense of this deal. So in turn, it kind of showed that Sony was kind of being more of the aggressive. And what they were able to point out is that in the past, Sony has blocked games from going to Game Pass, that it's done multiple timed exclusives that Xbox has kind of not done anymore. We can look at examples like Final Fantasy VII Remake and, of course, Final Fantasy 16. And then, of course, they were doing a bunch of Call of Duty incentives, PlayStation only, not getting early access. If you play it on here, you can get these guns or these skins and things like that. So it kind of showed that Sony was more, in the end, being the aggressor. And then, so at the very end, it went through... it has to go through its last holdup, which is with the CMA in the UK. Now, since that court date, a lot of things have changed because this outcome was about 8 days ago, and a lot of people were kind of curious of what was going on. So I'll read this final thing to kind of catch you up of what was going on, and then Andrew, if you want to jump in, we can dive into that. And this comes to us from TrueAchievements.com, and it says, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard have extended the merger agreement deadline to 10/18. Spencer said, we're optimistic about getting this done and excited about bringing more games to players everywhere. Regulators in the US and the UK have pushed back hard against the deal, causing significant delays in the acquisition process. While Microsoft recently won a court battle against the US Federal Trade Commission that gave the company permission to close out the merger, the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, which is the CMA, blocked the deal, which Microsoft later appealed. Now both Microsoft and the CMA have agreed to put the appeals process on hold while they try to reach an agreement. The CMA has said it will issue a final order on the deal on August 29, 2023, so it's possible the deal could potentially close then. Microsoft and Activision Blizzard have also agreed to a new breakup fee that will increase to $3.5 billion if the deal falls through after August 29, 2023, and to $4.5 billion should it collapse after September 15, 2023. Microsoft President Brad Smith said on Twitter, together with Activision, we are announcing the extension of our merger agreement to 10/18 to provide ample time to work through the final regulatory issues. We will honor all commitments agreed upon with the EC and other regulators and continue to work with the CMA on issues raised in the UK. We are confident about our prospects for getting this deal across the finish line. So what the October extension means is that originally, when this was a week ago, they had till July 18th to come to a final agreement on what was going to happen. So when that came and passed and it didn't happen, legally, both sides had the option to walk away from the deal. And if that would have happened, Microsoft would have paid Activision, I think, $3 billion at the time. But since then, they both decided that this is in their best interest to keep going. So with that being said, they mutually agreed to extend the date to the end of October. And the CMA has been looking at some of the rules that they've kind of been adjusting, some of the regulation, and they're also in agreement going, you know what, we also like this as well. Let's push this out till October, and they have certain deals that, can be made by August. So again, it's a lot to hear. It's a lot to listen to. I wasn't almost even going to bring this up because it is so much, so you can thank Andrew for making sure we talk about this, because he is right. It is important because this is the biggest deal, not only in gaming, in technology ever. So that's kind of where we've last left at the court, and now that the deal's been pushed through, we're looking at as far as October that it could be. But again, things could still fall through where they're still paying up billions of dollars to Activision if it doesn't. So with that being said, Andrew, was there anything else you wanted to... I have thoughts and add-ons from Drew. Is there anything else you wanted to point out, or maybe anything I missed?
So I mean, pretty much, it almost...
Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I was going to say, pretty much the CMA is the last hurdle for this thing, but it seems like it's all but sure going to go through. I mean, the FTC was going to be the biggest thing, but from everything I had read or seen, it seemed like and you would point out some of that stuff with even the injunction. The injunction was just like a last-ditch effort. It seemed like the FTC just really kind of fumbled and botched the case.
I heard those court days were embarrassing.
Yeah, and again, we're not going to bring it up because there was a lot of stuff said, and some people say it goes both ways, but I mean, it's very obvious which direction it went now. So he can go back and look at that. And I mean, even before, you almost kind of wonder too if either Sony lost out or they kind of maybe, all right, well, we lost that, so we'll just take this deal instead because this is all we care about. Because actually, before that case, the deal was for all Activision properties to be on a 10-year program with Sony, and then we'll work it out afterwards. Whereas this post FTC injunction deal is actually only specifically for Call of Duty. It is not for any other sort of property. So I mean, they've made sense with a lot. It would not make sense in any world for them to pull Call of Duty off of this.
Yeah, you look at $7.5 billion next to $70 billion. It's like there's a difference.
But I mean, even still, to take it further, they CNBC had a interview with Bobby Kotick, who is the CEO of Activision, asking him if he could see this deal coming to fruition within the next 45 days. And he said he doesn't see any reason why it shouldn't be able to happen that quickly, but it's hard to know for sure. I mean, it's pretty much saying, like, unless there's some unreasonable holdup, there is no reason that this deal should not go through at all. And I don't know if it's a part of the deal or if it's maybe just something they had been working on in the background. But even going a step further is Xbox actually was just, for whatever reason, working on the 360 servers for Call of Duty individually. That I've got some numbers here. As of July 18th, the Xbox 360 servers are back up for Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and Modern Warfare 3. Black Ops 1 had 123,000 players online playing. Black Ops 2 had 11,000 players playing. And Modern Warfare 3 had 79,000 people playing. And that's a crazy amount for, those games are how old now? That's insane for them just to put in a little, whatever kind of server work to make this sort of thing happen.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too. Bobby Kotick was one of the guys during the trial that was kind of, I don't want to say taking Sony's side, but pointing out that it almost seemed like he didn't want the merger to go through. But because I'm almost positive that once this happens, he's gone. I
would imagine so, with all the allegations and weird things against him.
So this guy is toast. So was there anything else you wanted to add on that? Because I did have something else I wanted to ask you.
No, go for it. So
with that being said, and this is just kind of a speculation of, so assuming all this goes through, what do you think Game Pass is going to look like after this? I'll pop it up if you guys are watching the YouTube version, but a fan made this kind of thing, and I'm glad you brought up those numbers, because one of the things it showed was like 13 Call of Duty games, which sounds cool, but yeah, my original question was like, well, do some of these even run anymore? So if they are bringing up the servers and that's all coming back, my only other question would be, do you think that would pull, because some people love the old Call of Duties and they don't want to keep playing the new ones, do you think that would pull from any of the traffic? Because isn't one of the reasons they were shutting down the Warzone 1 was because Warzone 2 wasn't getting enough traction?
I'm glad you actually asked that, because that was my big thing. I was just thinking about this. Right, I'm wondering whose real idea this was, because that's going to deter from Warzone 2 or Modern Warfare 2. I'm sure when Modern Warfare 3 comes out, because a lot of people aren't really too happy with the state of the game and where it's at right now, that they just look back on the glory days. And yeah, if you have an option to go back to that's working perfectly fine and perfectly viable, then why not?
But you look at this list though. Do you think it'll start being things like this day and day? Do you think all this will come over to the Game Pass? Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, a couple of Tony Hawk games, Sekiro, Prototype.
Sekiro's a crazy one on there.
Yeah, Deadpool. Obviously, but the big thing I know a lot of people are looking forward to is the Diablo titles. I mean, and there's still more than this. This is just a fan-made one. There's still a bunch of other games. X-Men Legends is a game that I think was under that umbrella. So do you think that whole catalog is going to jump over? And then moving forward, because I was talking to you, I wonder if Call of Duty, wouldn't it be day and date on the Game Pass? Maybe go 6 months, cross-platform, $70 for everybody, and then maybe in 6 months then it goes to the Game Pass or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if you can get future Call of Duties day and date like you do with everything else,
because you got to make that money back.
You got to make that money back for this deal, and then even still, how do you give up that kind of money? And I mean, if you're really trying to draw people to Xbox, you don't even have to do day and date on Game Pass. If you own an Xbox and you have Game Pass, you can buy the brand new Call of Duty for $30.
That's what I was just gonna say.
If you're getting it anywhere else, it's $70.
Yeah, I was just gonna say make it $30, make it half price if it's on Xbox.
But
but you have to have Game Pass.
Yeah. But I see Spyro and other stuff like that. Yeah, I don't think those are really the problem.
But, I mean, do you think it'll inflate the Game Pass? Do you think that's what we're kind of looking?
That would be insane value too if they added all that stuff on there. I mean, Sekiro by itself is a Game of the Year, we went to the Game of the Year that it won. That would be a huge thing itself. I think I'd even seen someone posted it. I think it's a person who does the marketing for Xbox. They retweeted. I think it was like a ring and like a goat or something like that. And then it was like a picture of Sekiro on there. And they're one of the people who usually post stuff about like Game Pass and things coming to it and stuff like that. So I'm like, damn, like if that's the case, then... And I think they also did it too with like a Crash Bandicoot or whatever. So that would just add insane value to something that already has insane value.
Yeah, I like that. So developing those from software, why wouldn't things like I know
that one's published by Activision.
Oh, it's published. That's the only one. So when you look at things like Dark Souls and
Elden
Demon's Souls PS5, but
yeah, those ones were developed, but the publisher's Bandai Namco.
Okay,
and then I think Elden Ring developed and published it both from software, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they use Bandai Namco again.
Yeah, so I mean, future of Game Pass I think is good. I think they did a good job of defending themselves, or at least it wasn't so much defending him. It was just not doing what I think they were trying to make them look like they were doing. There was no feasible evidence that showed that the deal shouldn't go through, especially when they were kind of hindering on that this is going to hurt Sony and not the consumer. If anything, the consumer is going to get more games, more places for a cheaper value, I would say, but... I don't know. I think that's about all we have to say on the FTC Activision thing. Again, this thing still has up to minimum 45 days, up to a few more months. Obviously, we'll kind of keep our eye on it and talk more about it as things arise. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
I actually was gonna. Do you think Sony's gonna retaliate in any way? Like, okay, so this deal looks like it is going to go through for sure.
I think there's nothing stopping them from doing more timed exclusives. Yeah. And if they had to buy, I don't know if they buy a Square Enix, but I think all they can do now is go, okay, well now we need, outside of first party games, we need more people to come to us. Like timed exclusive. I don't know if Final Fantasy 16 now was ever going to be on Xbox.
I would say, yeah, because that's been my big... I'm not cheering for any company either way, because I'm not for, like, consolidation of something like this, but that is my biggest fear, is some sort of rebuttal. Like, okay, well, you bought them, especially with, like, some of the other documents that leak, like, okay, well, we'll buy Sony out of business, and we'll buy Sega and Capcom, whatever. I don't want Sony to go out and buy Square Enix or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know about Square, but if they could throw a couple more parties, a couple more studios in there that makes sense for them, I'm all for that. I mean, if they just picked up Activision Blizzard, I don't think it would hurt Sony to grab, two studios that fit their kind of build, kind of maybe more...
Just not Sega or Capcom. You can have...
Yeah.
I don't want to say Konami, because they might be on a comeback either. Take someone I don't care about.
Yeah, there you go. So, guys, leave us your thoughts down below of what you think about the Xbox, Activision, Sony kind of court stuff that was going on. So, with that down in the way, guys, we got a little bit more time, so let's move into questions of the week. Now, guys, if you want to leave a question that Andrew and I can answer on the show, you can do so several ways. You can email us at lastcallproductions@gmail.com. You can leave a comment down in the YouTube section of the YouTube video. We can grab them there. Or you can find me on social media at Craig Perales, and you can write them there. And our first question comes from Laffy Taffy 1280. And they write, have you seen the new Wolverine outfit for Deadpool 3? People said it couldn't be done, but it can be done. Lovely quote from... was that Willy Wonka? Yeah. It couldn't be done, but it can be done. So yeah, if you guys are watching the YouTube version, I put up a couple screenshots of it. And yeah, a lot of people were saying that, there's one thing to put an image that's from animation or the comic book page, but once you bring it into, a live action movie, it does look silly. One of the jokes I remember for X-Men, when they're wearing all the black leather and Wolverine's like, oh, we're wearing leather. And he's like, what did you want? Yellow spandex?
Yeah.
Right. So that joke's been made, but you look at kind of how the outfits have been moving along, right? They're not spandex anymore. Deadpool's gear is kind of more like a tactical suit that matches the color. When you're looking at Wolverine's suit, it is like tactical body armor. And I got to say, because obviously when you watch it in a movie, right, they can do things, they can change things, right? You can look at Superman's outfit. It's black or light blue in some, but in the Zack Snyder, they've conditioned it to be like that dark blue. even looking at these screenshots, that yellow pops. Is it the most attractive outfit? You could argue yes, you could argue no, but I think it nails the aesthetic of that old school Wolverine. So you've seen it. What were your initial thoughts on it?
I actually think it looks really good. I don't think he's been wearing it the whole movie. It was almost weird to see him wearing it, though, because every time I see Wolverine, he's just wearing, like, a tank top and he's just shredded beef. That when he's wearing this, I can't, like, see anything. That I'm like, well, now he just kind of looks a little weird because I'm used to seeing him just, full-blown jacked, wearing, like, a jacket or something like that. I do think it looks really, really cool, though. I personally don't mind it. And I wonder, too, if they'll mention the Wolverine, because that was the first time you ever even saw, like, more, besides that mention, was not, I forget what they call Wolverine in Japanese. I'll just say Tanuki. I know that's not it, but at the end she gives him that case. She's like, oh, something about the Tanuki or whatever, and he opens it, and it's the mask that's got that classic, like, yellow and blue. So I'm
that's the yellow, like, brown one, the yellow reddish one.
I thought it was yellow and blue because I just watched it the other day.
We'd have to, because that's another question, because you know that yellow brown kind of look that he has. Do you like that one over? I know there's a third one.
I like the yellow and blue more.
Yeah, I think the yellow blue is kind of the more poppy one. Who did the other one? Was it Todd McFarlane did the yellow red one? But
well, I think who's the guy who does yellow?
Todd McFarlane. What?
Who's the guy we met that does yellow blue?
Andy Carrion?
No, the artist for the comic that made the X-Men comic, and we got his.
I
can't think right now.
I have his goddamn picture. Claremont.
No, not Chris Claremont did the story. Who did the art?
Oh, we met. I'm losing it now.
Either way, we met him, and he's the one who did all the redesign for the modern '90s.
Oh, Jim Lee.
Jim Lee, thank you. I could not remember his name right now, but no, if you
met somebody come, I'm like, wait.
I was like, if you look at your X-Men ones, it has a red and brown, and it has a blue and yellow too.
Well, I know one of the pictures show him because people are going, is he going to go maskless? I think there's another picture of him in. I think it's that picture where they're walking down the street. And people are saying that you can see the suit or the mask or something. I didn't see it.
There's like something hanging off of him.
Yeah. So do you think he'll wear the mask, or do you think this is more like I don't want to say a montage because it looks like a fight scene, but you don't think that'll be the outfit for the entirety?
I don't think so. I think he'll be like he kind of maybe normally is or something like that halfway through and then switch to this. Plus, I don't think he needs the mask anyways because you have his hair so perfect that it's almost like that shape anyways.
Yeah. I hope it's Deadpool being like snapping his fingers and being like, this is better.
Yeah.
For the fight scene, and then it goes back out. So, I think the outfit looks cool. Can't wait for that to come. I think it comes out 2024, somewhere around like March or something like that. So we're not too far away from seeing it. I'd imagine we'd be getting a trailer soon, assuming I don't know if this.
I think they stopped filming it right now because of the strikes.
The strike kind of affected this one, so hopefully this thing moves along a little bit faster. So thank you for the question. Leave your comments down below of what you feel about it, and we'll do one more question. We got enough time. So the last question comes from Jamie Lawrenson, and they write, "That new Twisted Metal trailer looks a lot better than the last one. I know you guys said you were on board, but does this lower or raise your excitement at all? Thanks for all you do." So. Yeah, I'm glad they finally did a bigger trailer. I like the other one that showed him in Vegas and Sweet Tooth beating the shit out of him. I thought that was kind of cool. This one actually kind of shows more of what the show's going to be about, right? I think they call him the Milkman. He's like a carrier, and he's bringing packages from safeguard area to safeguard area. It shows that it's in this dystopia kind of world now, and I liked it. I thought some of the lines seemed a little cheesy. I didn't care for the foot. Oh, look, there's a Foot Locker in here. I know that's supposed to be the funny part. I just hope all the jokes aren't kind of like that. I don't know. What did you think about it?
I think it kind of fits the theme of the game because, that game's always kind of been like a little bit weird. And I like, too, that some of the changes they made, because we were talking about it, like, I think in the original one, the reason they even do, like, the races and stuff like that is because the winner gets, like, their dreams granted, like, in reality, and I think the last dude's name's, like, Calypso or something, and I don't know how he makes whatever happen, but they do whatever. I like that they made this just realistic, and that it's set in realism. I like the dystopia idea. I like that it seems like there's warlords, so you have it seems like the old police and stuff like that in one area, and then they do mention that thing like, oh, you don't want to go through his domain, and then it's like Sweet Tooth for his side or whatever. But then they even have nods to the game, like the chick. When she's giving him the mission, the milkman or whatever, she's like, what I can give you whatever you want. I can make your dreams come true. And I'm like, okay, that's a nod to what that original one was supposed to be. That I'm still on board. I think this got me a little bit more involved than I think I was. I do hope it's not crazy cheesy, but I don't know what I could really expect to be different. So
I believe it airs on the 27th. So by the time we do our next show, do you have Peacock? It's on
yes.
Peacock. We should watch it. We'll probably at least like how we did The Last of Us. We'll maybe review the first episode and just kind of see where. Do you think they'll make a game of the show about the game?
It's been a long time since we've seen a Twisted Metal. That I mean, they could. That would be cool, or at least some sort of tie-in or something.
Yeah, I think the trailer was really good. I think there is some cheat. Collins was saying he's not looking forward to it at all. He thinks it looks dumb. He's like, but I'll watch it. And I'm like, I think that's what most of us are gonna do. At least give it the first episode.
Looking forward to stupid games like Remnant.
Bro,
that we just bought today.
We'll talk about that next week too. So guys, thank you for joining us, guys. That is the end of episode 173. Join us next week, guys, for episode 174. And until then, guys, my name is Craig Perales. This handsome fellow is Mandrew Montsmine. Until then, guys, cheers.
Stay cool out there.